several years ago, when I was studying to become a pastor, I became friends with this family, and they had this son named Matthew. And this kid was so unusual. It's hard to put into words. He had this old soul, you know what I mean? He was only a high school student, probably 15 or 16, but he was thinking about things and wrestling with issues so ahead of his time. And I remember I would have discussions with people who knew Matthew, and we'd say, like, what do you think that kid, what do you think he's going to do someday? What's he going to do with his life? And we would all say, whatever it is, it'll be extraordinary. I mean, this kid was he's so talented. And things became really tough for his family. And his parents split up. And so he came to live with me. So I'm this seminary student in my early 20s, and I'm helping this high school kid get off to school in the morning. I was like this surrogate big brother. I will never forget those days. And then he graduated and moved away to go to school and work, and then I got a job on the other side of the country, and so we would keep in touch. And he came to visit me one time, and when I was in town, I'd look him up, and we'd catch up and tell our stories. And then I got a call that Matthew had been in a terrible car accident, and that he was in the hospital in critical condition. And then a couple hours later, the same person called back, and they said, Rob, he didn't make it. And it's like I keep replaying that moment. Like, Rob, Matthew, he didn't make it. I have such vivid memories, like even where I was sitting, how the phone felt in my hand. It's like this numb feeling, this feeling that like everything's moving and yet it's standing perfectly still. And if there's anything I've learned or I'm learning, it's that whatever you're feeling in that moment, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to feel numb. And for me, it's like anger, shock, denial. It's okay. Or just that feeling like you don't feel anything at all. And that's okay too. And it's okay to have no answers and no explanations and maybe even no words. You know what does help? Is that Jesus wept. There's a story in the book of John. Jesus' friend Lazarus dies. And a couple days later, Jesus goes to Lazarus' village. And his family is there, and his friends, and they're all gathered around, and they're all just sobbing. They're all like they're just mourning their loss. And Lazarus' sisters are even saying to Jesus, if you would have been here earlier, maybe this wouldn't have happened. And Jesus enters into this just big giant mess, and he says, the scripture says that he's deeply moved in his spirit. Somewhere deep down, he just connects with this whole mess. And then the Bible reads these two words, Jesus wept. He feels all this pain and loss, and he enters into it, and he lets the full force of the moment hit him. It's because, you have to let it hit you. You can't avoid it. We can't avoid our responses to things and think they'll go away. If we stuff it, then it's in there somewhere, and it will come out. We have like avoid our responses to things and think they'll go away. If we stuff it, then it's in there somewhere, and it will come out. We have to let it out, or it's in there somewhere. I mean, maybe you lost somebody a long time ago, and you never properly grieved. Then it's still in there somewhere. It's still in there. If the Son of God needs to let it out, if Jesus wept, then we do too. There's an ancient Jewish practice that taps into this in a profound way for me. It's called sitting Shiva. And when you lose somebody that you love, or like if you know somebody who loses somebody that they love, then you go over to their house and you sit with them. You just sit. You just sit. And you don't say anything. If at some point they want to talk, then you talk. And if they prefer silence, then there's silence. So, if you've lost somebody close to you, I mean, maybe it was years and years ago, or maybe it was a couple of days ago. I mean, I don't know how long ago, or if it was just the other day. But I am so sorry. I am so sorry for your loss. I do know that you and I have choices about the kinds of people we are and the kinds of people we're becoming. We have a choice whether or not we're going to become bitter. There's this woman in the Bible named Naomi, and she loses her husband and her 2 sons. And she says, don't call me Naomi anymore, call me Mara. And the word Mara is the Hebrew word for bitter. She's like, don't call me Naomi, call me bitter. A man named Job in the scriptures loses everything, children, houses, possessions, and his wife says, Job, are you still holding on to your integrity? Like, curse God and die. She becomes, she becomes consumed with her bitterness. And if we don't acknowledge this choice, if we let a little bit of bitterness in, it'll take over. I mean, maybe you let that in a long time ago. Or maybe you had that sense of guilt that comes with, if only I would have done this, that wouldn't have happened. If only I would have been this way. If I would have done something differently. And so we could become racked with guilt. And it like seeps in and it becomes a part of us. And we're not even aware of it. Don't let it happen. Don't let it happen. There's this ancient psalm where the writer says to God, it's like this prayer where he's just pouring out his pain. And he says, you've made me see trouble. You've made me see troubles, many and bitter, but you will restore me again. It's easy when we suffer loss. It's easy when we suffer loss for whatever it is that we lost to become the center of our life. We had them and now they're gone. And so there's like this giant hole where they once were, and it becomes all we can think about. And what happens in the process is our whole life becomes what we don't have, and we lose out on what we do have. Your heart, my heart, it will recover. It will recover. It will never, our hearts will never be the same again, but we will recover. The first Christians spoke about a day in the future when God would restore everything. You, me, everything in heaven and on earth. I find great hope in that. So may you realize that Jesus wept. And may you come to see that whatever you're feeling, it's okay. It's okay. And may you make the choice. May you make the choice not to become bitter and closed, but open. And may you realize that God is sitting Shiva with you, fully present, grieving your loss, but also restoring. And in that, may we find hope.